People were starting to say it's an East Coast, West Coast rivalry because it was people that's trying to make money. It was true people trying to make careers, it was people trying to get famous. Just that I don't want to be involved in stuff where there's negative stuff.
Hi, how do you do?
I need to talk to you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's the kind of revelation that seems lifted directly from a Hollywood thriller. Rumor has it that Suge Knight, once regarded as the kingpin of West Coast rap, is negotiating a deal with federal authorities that could rock the foundation of hip-hop history. At the center of it all is his longtime rival Diddy, whose legacy is already collapsing under the weight of explosive allegations. But that's not all. There are also rumors that Suge may be blaming other significant figures in the music industry, such as Jay-Z, in exchange for a possible early release. If these rumors are accurate, this could be one of the most dramatic betrayals the music industry has ever witnessed.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
The man who wants to sit atop the throne of West Coast rap is currently serving a 28-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter following a 2015 incident that left a businessman fatally injured. However, despite the fact that Suge's current situation is very different from his days of luxury and power, sources claim that he is not content to fade into obscurity. Suge has been quietly cooperating with investigators, providing shocking information about the dark underbelly of the industry, and seemingly willing to give up some of the biggest names in music.
There's no punishment if they protected by the road, the judge, the DA.
The timing couldn't be more intriguing. One of the most well-known personalities in entertainment, Diddy, was once hailed as a mogul who transformed Bad Boy Records into a cultural powerhouse. Now, his empire is under siege, and he faces charges that could put him in jail for the rest of his life. Federal raids on his properties earlier this year turned up a wealth of evidence, and the accusations against him have only gotten worse over time. With his reputation already in ruins, the last thing Diddy needs is for Suge Knight to give investigators more ammunition.
2 weeks ago, I'm outside my office. My assistant comes up and says, Suge Knight wants to speak to you from jail. I said, who? He said, Suge Knight. The Suge? Yes. Gotta be kidding me. No.
Suge, however, seems more than willing to do just that. In a recent jailhouse interview, he didn't hold back when discussing Diddy's situation, and while he expressed some sympathy for Diddy's family, particularly his children, he made it clear that he believes Diddy's downfall is far from a solo act. Suge implied cryptically that Diddy was both a product of his environment and a participant in its perpetuation. He even named names, pointing fingers at influential industry figures like Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, and Jimmy Iovine as potential influencers of Diddy's actions. Although Suge didn't explicitly confirm his cooperation with authorities, his remarks have stoked rumors that he is sharing much more behind closed doors than he's letting on publicly.
Well, this is the thing I'm gonna tell you. We from two different worlds, number one.
Shy and Diddy's feud is legendary, and it's hard to separate their personal animosity from the larger East Coast versus West Coast rivalry that characterized hip-hop in the 1990s. Diddy's Bad Boy Records and Shaker's Death Row Records were at the forefront of this cultural war, and their rivalry was marked by public taunts, diss tracks, and even violence. The deaths of Shaker and the Notorious B, two of the biggest stars of the time, only served to deepen the animosity between the two camps. For years, there have been rumors about Suge's and Diddy's possible involvement in these tragedies, and although nothing has ever been proven, the specter of those still hangs over both men.
Ants at freedom.
I'm not the guy who's here for Puffy's downfall, but I am the guy who supports the victims who got victimized. Right.
Suge has never been shy about his contempt for Diddy, and some speculate that he sees this as an opportunity to take down his rival once and for all. However, Suge's motivations for possibly cooperating with investigators are as complicated as the man himself. On the one hand, he is a survivor who has always been willing to do whatever it takes to maintain his power and influence. On the other hand, this could be a calculated move to settle scores. Suge may be desperate because he faces nearly 3 decades in prison and may view cooperation as his only chance at freedom.
Got it. So you're saying Diddy's an FBI informant and he's been one for many years.
That's what they say. Nothing ever happens, but we still, like I say, angry.
Clean about the darker chapters of his life. But what exactly does Suge know, and how much is willing to share? Insiders suggest that his knowledge extends far beyond Diddy's current legal troubles. Suge was a central figure in the world of 1990s hip-hop, and his connections to both Shakur and Biggie make him a potentially invaluable source of information. If Shik is indeed cooperating with investigators, it's likely that he's sharing details about events and individuals that have long remained shrouded in mystery. And while it's unclear whether this information is enough to secure him a reduced sentence, the mere possibility is enough to send shockwaves through the music industry.
Would be throwing all his celebrity mates under the bus.
I mean, that could potentially be coming when it's time for court and when it's time for him to testify. But what we're seeing right now is how important public relations really are to Sean Combs. He's desperately trying to control the narrative behind bars, allowing his attorneys to do documentaries.
As the story unfolds, the tension between Suge and Diddy is reaching a boiling point. Suge's recent comments have reignited interest in their decades-long feud, and the possibility of his cooperation with authorities adds a new layer of complexity to their already fraught relationship. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal troubles continue to dominate headlines, with each new revelation painting a darker picture of his alleged actions. The intersection of these two narratives is creating a storm that could reshape the legacy of both men and potentially bring long-awaited closure to some of hip-hop's most enduring mysteries. But Suge Knight's motivations aren't just about settling scores or seeking revenge. There's a sense that he's trying to rewrite his own story to position himself as a truth-teller rather than a villain. Whether or not his cooperation will lead to any real consequences for Diddy remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Suge Knight is not going quietly, and as he continues to make headlines from behind bars, the world is left to wonder what other secrets he might reveal and who else might be caught in the crossfire.
Well, all due respect to Puffy, you gotta realize one thing. He didn't start off like that. I'm quite sure somebody taught him that. And that's more deep in the industry.
Suge's possible deal with investigators isn't just about Diddy, it's about the culture of secrecy and complicity that has long defined the music industry. By blaming influential people like Clive Davis and Russell Simmons, Suge is revealing an entire ecosystem that allowed certain behaviors to flourish unchecked. And even though his own actions are far from blameless, his willingness to speak out could force his industry to face the consequences. What's particularly fascinating is the ripple effect this could have on the larger hip-hop community.
We know some of the big names. I'm just curious if you have any names. You don't seem like somebody...
Well, number one was Clyde Davis.
As both men face the prospect of losing everything, their rivalry is taking on a new dimension. Suge's possible cooperation with investigators isn't just a betrayal, it's a seismic shift that could permanently alter the music industry's landscape. The feud between Diddy and Suge Knight has always been about more than just personal animosity. It's a reflection of the larger power struggles within the music industry, a battle for dominance that has shaped the course of hip-hop history.
At the end of the day, just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false. Hopefully due to time, we'll start to see.
To fully comprehend the seriousness of Suge Knight's alleged cooperation with investigators, we must return to the beginning of the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. This was not just a musical feud. Rather, it was a full-fledged cultural war that split fans, artists, and even entire cities. At its center were two larger-than-life figures, Shakur and Biggie, who became symbols of their respective coasts. Shakur, with his raw charisma and poetic lyricism, was the West Coast champion, while Biggie's storytelling and effortless flow made him the king of the East. Standing behind them, fanning the flames, were Suge Knight and Sen CS, or Suge Knight and Sen CS, two moguls whose hostility would define an era.
Civil lawsuit. Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
And while he never had concrete proof, he pointed the finger at Diddy and Biggie, accusing them of knowing more than they on this accusation added fuel to an already raging fire, and by the time Shakur signed with Death Row Records in 1996, the rivalry had become a full-blown vendetta.
Named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's murder.
It is impossible to overestimate the role that Suge Knight played in all of this. He was not only Shaker's boss, but also his most outspoken ally. Suge was known for his larger-than-life persona and his willingness to go to great lengths to protect his artists, but his tactics frequently crossed the line, making him one of the most feared men in the industry. Insiders have long conjectured that Suge's involvement in the feud went far beyond public posturing, with some claiming that he planned behind.
3 law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy.
6 months later, the notorious Big suffered a similar fate in Los Angeles. His death, which was widely believed to be retaliation for shockers, only made the tragedy worse and solidified the feud's legacy as one of the darkest chapters in hip-hop history. Similar to Shaker's case, Biggie's remains unsolved, with numerous theories about who was responsible. Some have blamed Suge Knight, claiming that he sought revenge for Shaker's death, while others think Diddy's camp may have contributed to the violence. The truth, however, has remained elusive in both cases, shrouded in conspiracy theories and a lack of hard evidence.
The only man currently facing charges in the case, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, claims that Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, paid for a hit on Tupac.
Suge Knight has always maintained his innocence, but his willingness to speak out now may indicate that he has information he's been holding on to for years. This brings us back to the present and his alleged cooperation with investigators. If the rumors are true, Suge could hold the key to unraveling these decades-old mysteries. His position as a central figure in the East Coast versus West Coast feud gives him unique insight into the events that transpired during that time.
The U.S. judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male sex workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
And that he has a psychiatrist who visits his cell multiple times a day, and there is now discussion about placing them in a bubble, a cell with a plexiglass wall where other prisoners are watching you, because it is their responsibility to monitor the inmates who are under suicide watch.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest.
As he faces nearly 3 decades of imprisonment, Suge may view this as his last opportunity to regain some semblance of freedom. By providing information on Diddy and other industry figures, he could position himself as an invaluable asset to investigators, possibly earning a reduced sentence in exchange. But it remains to be seen whether his claims will hold up under scrutiny. Of course, not everyone is convinced that Suge's motivations are pure. Some believe that his decision to cooperate is more about self-preservation than seeking justice.
He has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch.
The possibility that Suge Knight would work against him adds a whole new level of complexity to Diddy's already precarious legal situation. If Suge's information results in new charges or revelations, it could mean the end of Diddy's career and his freedom. And with rumors circulating about his possible involvement in the events of the 1990s, Diddy's legacy is at risk in a way that has never been seen before.
Some people do think that Diddy can help him, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a Marshall's inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth I don't know, several times a week.
In bars, the hip-hop community is left to grapple with the implications of his actions. If he is indeed cooperating with investigators, it raises uncomfortable questions about loyalty, betrayal, and the length people will go to protect themselves. It also forces us to confront the darker side of an industry that has long been romanticized for its glamour and success. Behind the music, there's a world of secrets, power struggles, and compromises that most fans will never fully understand.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
The story's most compelling element, though, may be how it challenges our preconceived notions of shite and scum. For years, Diddy was viewed as the shrewd businessman and Suge as the brutal enforcer. But as more information about their past comes to light, it becomes evident that the truth is much more nuanced. Both men have had a significant impact on the music industry, but their legacies are now inextricably linked to the controversies and tragedies of the 1990s.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in the jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
The big question now is how this will all end. Will Suge's cooperation lead to new breakthroughs in the cases of Shaker and Biggie? Will Diddy face even more legal trouble as a result? And what does this mean for the future of hip-hop, an art form that has always thrived on reinvention and resilience? These are questions that only time will answer, but one thing is certain: the story of Suge Knight, Diddy, and the East Coast versus West Coast feud is far from over. If anything, it's entering a new chapter, one that promises to be just as dramatic and unpredictable as the ones that came before. And as the world watches this saga unfold, the legacy of hip-hop hangs in the balance, waiting for the next twist in a tale that has captivated fans for decades. So what do you think? Is Suge Knight truly willing to spill all the secrets he knows? And if so, could this finally bring closure to the mysteries surrounding Shaker and Figgy Desus? And how might this impact Diddy's current legal battles? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this unfolding drama. Thanks for watching.